Hey, my friend, there's two reasons why I'm making this video. Number one, it's a tribute to a mentor in my life who about a year ago passed away. And this is a tribute to him. But the other reason I'm making this video is I want to communicate something specifically to the men in my life, the friends I have with my life. I am so thankful for the many friends I have in my life. A man texted me the other day and he said, I love what you're doing. There's a group of about 37 of us men who are producing a book right now. And I said, man, I'm so glad we're doing this together. And he said, man, I'm so proud that you're leading the charge and you're taking the bull by the horns with this. And I told him, I said, Jeff, I don't know that I'm taking the bull by the horns. I feel like you guys are pushing me towards the bull, and I grabbed the bull by the horns so I wouldn't fall on my face. I know this, that the strength of a man is found in the community of men that he gets to know and experience in his life. And so I'm so thankful for all the friendships I have. So I want to talk about Dan Miller. Dan Miller passed away about a year ago. He was an author. He was a podcaster. He led a community of people who were all trying to pursue work that they love and building businesses and becoming authors and things like that. About 7 years ago, a lot of things changed in my life. I left an occupation and I left it for nothing. I just knew there was something inside of me that I needed to do something with. There was just a wrestling on the inside of me that there's something that I needed to pursue in life. It wasn't a specific calling, if you will, but I was a man that was living just for comfort and security. I wasn't really chasing after something bigger than me. And I became so unsettled living that kind of life. And I left the career that I had, and someone directed me towards Dan Miller. And I began to listen to his podcast, and I appreciated his content on work and finding work that you love and making an impact. But what I really listened to was not his content, but I was listening to him. Like, who is this man? What I found when I listened to his podcast is I liked him. His content was very good, but it was him that I liked. Like, I appreciated who he was. He seemed like he was a man of great character. He was a man who was family first. He was a man that was people first, not money first. So I really valued just who he was as a human, and that kept me connected to him. And eventually I got to meet him in person one time and have some conversations through email and whatnot. But there was something interesting. I noticed he had a large community of people this community of people were all trying to support each other in the venture of our lives. But what I noticed was a lot of people were trying to do what Dan Miller was doing. He's an author. How can I do that? He has a great podcast. How can I do that? People were trying to do what he was doing. And what I found myself doing was just observing this and looking at people's lives. I've always been like that. As a younger brother, I've always just observed people and how they're living their lives, how they pursue what they pursue. And what I found myself thinking is, I don't want to do what Dan Miller's doing. I want to be who Dan Miller be. I want to be who he be. Because everything you do in life flows out of who you be as a person first. What you do in your life isn't disconnected from who you be. So one time he told a story, I believe on his podcast, and it just blew me away, and it made this light bulb go off in me. He talked about his life and described that I think he was in his young 50s. And at that time in his life, he did not yet have a podcast. He hadn't written a book. He didn't have this community. He was just a man who had some dreams and aspirations, and he had a whole lot of debt. So looking at his life at age 50, you wouldn't say that he'd really accomplished a lot necessarily. Now, what he had done has been faithful to his wife and faithful to God and faithful to his kids. And he had raised a family. He had built a family. And that stuck out to me. But something else he said stuck out to me. He described that in that season of his life, there were a group of men from his church, I believe, who decided to meet. It was the basement of a little church, he said, in Tennessee. And we decided to meet together. And it sounded like it was kind of like a Bible study / mastermind where they just talked about what they could do with their lives. One of the men in that group was Dave Ramsey, who most people know with what he's done with his life. Aaron Walker is another man that many people know for the work that he does with men. And so here's this group of men that are meeting in the basement of a church, and the work of their lives hasn't really taken off yet. Certainly with Dave Ramsey, he wasn't yet doing what he's doing, and Dan Miller wasn't doing what he was doing, and I don't think Aaron Walker was doing what he was doing. And so here they are in the basement of this church, sitting around tables, and I'm just imagining in my mind that they're throwing out the thoughts of their heart, the dreams of their heart. And from that, things begin to happen. And when I heard that story, I was like, aha, that's the Dan Miller I want to be. I want to be around a table with men who have the guts to dream together, to mastermind together, to have real conversation about our lives and what we can do in this world, to really strengthen each other and to support each other going towards a dream. And when I heard that story, I was convinced that form of Dan Miller, that Dan Miller is the person that I want to experience. And that's something that I can do in my real life. I'm so thankful that I got to experience and know Dan Miller. He really did move my life. He really did shape me. He enhanced my life in so many ways, and I'm so thankful. But now I want to talk to the friends in my life, the men that I get to know. I'm so thankful. I just want to speak to you and say, what could we do? I'm so thankful right now. 37 of us have all worked together to write this book called In the Game, and it's going to come out in about 6 weeks, I believe. Like, we did that. Like, we all had the guts to raise our hand and be like, yeah, let's do it. 37 of us. And it's going to be a book. And people are going to read it, and it's going to help people. But my thought is, we can't stop. Like, what more can we do as men because we know each other? If we have the guts to sit around tables and dream dreams and share thoughts and look at the world and think, how can we make the world better? How can we add more light to darkness? How can we use our gifts and talents? How can we use our relationships to further good things happening on planet Earth? My favorite thing to believe, you've heard me say it before, but my favorite thing to believe is that when common people take uncommon steps with common people, miracles become common. The kind of common people that we can just sit around tables in the basement of a church, or we can sit around tables at a random workplace or at a coffee shop and be willing to be like, hey, you want to do something? Like, this is the opportunity of our lives. I was at a men's gathering recently, and there was a song that was being sung. And the words of the song were, with all the faith in this room, what could God do? And I like those lyrics. I like that song. I appreciate it. But I feel like in my mind, as I sat there, I was thinking, but wait, with all of the dudes in this room, what could we make happen? And my thoughts, I don't believe, are in contradiction to the thoughts of that song. I think in faith-based communities, we tend to think, well, let's believe in God and see what God does. But I think there's another side of the coin when it comes to Scripture, which is because of God and because of what He's done in our lives, what can we do? But we can't look at life and say, what can I do? But life is a team sport, and we must continually look around at each other and say, hey, what could we do? And we must just keep tapping away at that question. We don't have to come up with some grandiose, specific, grand plan. Sometimes it's just the next time we get together with open hearts and just let the conversation be what it is. Let the conversation become something that's beyond all of us. Let the conversation stir our hearts, and maybe, just maybe, there'll be an idea that someone in that room says. Someone at the table at Denny's has an idea, and we act on it. I talked to a dreamer recently, a man who's done a lot of things with his life. I called him and I was like, man, you're such a dreamer. And he said, I don't know that I'm a dreamer. I just take action on good ideas. And I was like, can I do that? This is what we can do as friends, as men who dare to care about each other and about this world. We can choose to dare to care and take action together with our lives. And who knows what could happen. So I'm thankful to Dan Miller and the ministry and message of his life. And I'm thankful for all the men, the dude friends I have in my life. Thank you for pushing me onward and upward. I hope you feel me doing the same for you. Go take on the day.